Ambassador Alara Keen stood before the massive crystalline dome of the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber. Her posture relaxed, despite being surrounded by the most powerful beings in the known universe. 3,000 representatives from 1,000 worlds gazed down at her, their varied anatomies arranged in ascending rings of judgment seats. The chamber hummed with tension. High Arbiter Voxmal, a 12-limbed entity whose translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, raised 4 of his appendages for silence. The Collective Assembly of United Species hereby formally announces the termination of the Ancient Accord. Voxmal's voice boomed through neural translators. The 3,500-year truce between the galactic hegemony and Sol system is dissolved. Effective immediately, a state of war exists between our civilizations. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species chittered in excitement, others hummed with dread. The Dracorian delegates, with their metallic scales and fiery eyes, thumped approval with tail spikes against their platforms. Ambassador Keen, Voxmal continued, you may transmit this declaration to your government. The Council grants Earth 48 galactic standard hours to surrender unconditionally before military operations commence. Alara should have appeared terrified. She represented a single system against the combined might of 1,000 worlds. Their armadas numbered in the millions. Their technology spanned eons of development. Instead, she smiled. The chamber fell silent. High Arbiter, she said, her voice calm and measured. I am authorized to respond immediately. She took a datapad from her aide, a young man with an equally untroubled expression, and read the official response. Earth acknowledges your declaration. We find it amusing. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Several delegates rose in outrage. You find WR amusing, Ambassador? Voxmal's bioluminescence flashed crimson. We find your misunderstanding of history amusing, Alara replied. You seem to have forgotten why the truce was established in the first place. The High Arbiter's limbs trembled. The Ancient Accord was a mercy granted to your primitive species. Was it? Alara projected a hologram from her palm, a simple document ancient by any standard. This is the original treaty, written in 17 languages, including Proto-Galactic. Perhaps the Council would benefit from a reminder of Article 1. The hologram zoomed in on text that began to glow. Article 1. The galactic hegemony hereby acknowledges the containment of Sol system and its dominant species under terms specified by humanity. Chaos erupted in the chamber as translation systems confirmed the wording. This is impossible, Voxmal whispered, but the evidence floated before him. Alara's smile never wavered. We didn't sign a truce to protect ourselves from you, High Arbiter. You signed it to protect yourselves from us. As the uproar grew, security drones swooped down from the chamber's heights, their weapon systems activating, not aimed at Alara, but at the increasingly hostile delegates. Order, Voxmal thundered, his voice amplified to painful levels. The human will explain this deception. When quiet finally returned, Alara spoke with the same unnerving calm. There is no deception, only forgotten truth. Your histories were rewritten to spare your collective pride. Her aide, Marcus Reeves, stepped forward and activated his own projection system. The chamber darkened as a historical scene played out above their heads. Primitive human ships meeting the hegemony's ancient fleet near Proxima Centauri. Your first contact. Protocol was to fire without warning, Marcus explained. Your ancestors assumed we would be an easy conquest. The projection showed the human vessels disintegrating under energy weapons. But then something impossible happened. The star itself moved as if grabbed by an invisible force, directly into the path of the hegemony fleet. 27 capital ships destroyed in an instant, Alara continued as the projection faded. Not by our weapons, but by our will. An elderly delegate from the Archivists Guild shuffled to the speaking platform. His species was known for their perfect recall and dedication to historical accuracy. I have served the Council for 700 years, he said, voice quavering, and I have always questioned the inconsistencies in our records regarding humanity. This footage confirms my suspicions. The High Arbiter turned to the ancient being. Explain, Archivist Joro. The records were altered after the Great Purge, Joro replied. But echoes remained in our oldest texts, warnings about the species that could bend reality, the beings who could reshape stars with thought alone. Alara nodded respectfully to the old archivist. We agreed to the truce because we recognized our own potential for destruction. We were young in our power then, volatile, dangerous, We needed time to master ourselves, so you allowed us to believe we had contained you? Voxmal asked, his bioluminescence now pulsing with confusion. It served both our interests, Marcus explained. You saved face and we gained time, 3,500 years of peaceful development, free from the obligation to demonstrate our capabilities repeatedly. And now? A serpentine delegate hissed from the upper tiers. Now you've declared war, Alara replied simply, which means the restrictions we placed upon ourselves are lifted. As if on cue, every communication device in the chamber chimed simultaneously. On personal screens, public displays, neural interfaces, the same message appeared across thousands of different communication protocols. Attention. All species. Humans have awakened. The chamber's main view screen activated without command, showing a live feed from the edges of the Sol system. The hegemony's first strike fleet, 10,000 warships dispatched days earlier in secret, hung motionless in space, surrounded by swirling mists of energy that slowly resolved into shapes. Human shapes, miles tall, composed of pure light and power. That fleet was supposed to arrive tomorrow, Voxmal whispered. How did you— We've always known your plans, High Arbiter, Alara said gently. Just as we've always known you would eventually break the truce. It's why we've been preparing. The image zoomed in on the fleet's flagship. On its bridge, Admiral Thex stared in horror at something beyond the view screen, his mandibles clicking in primal fear. We don't want war, Alara continued, turning to address the entire council. We never did. But if you insist on this path, you should understand what you're truly facing. She gestured, and the chamber's lights dimmed further. For a brief moment, her human form seemed to ripple, revealing glimpses of something vast and luminous beneath the facade. We contained ourselves willingly, she said, her voice somehow deeper, richer, more resonant. Now we are free. The question is, what happens next? The silence that followed was the silence of 1,000 species collectively realizing they had made a terrible mistake. The council chambers descended into pandemonium. Species that had evolved from prey animals began instinctively seeking higher ground. The Dracorians, once bellicose, now froze in primitive fear response. Admiral Krelvan of the Hegemony Fleet pushed through the crowd toward Alara. 8 feet of armored exoskeleton and weaponized cybernetics. He towered over the human ambassador. This is deception, he growled. Humans are confined to a single system. Your technological level is barely interstellar. Our intelligence reports clearly state, your intelligence was designed to see what we wanted you to see, interrupted Marcus Reeves, stepping forward. 3,500 years ago, after the incident at Proxima Centauri, we showed your ancestors a glimpse of our true nature. They begged for mercy. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Several elder counselors visibly recoiled. High Arbiter Voxmal raised all 12 limbs. Silence. This session is now classified. The public feeds cut immediately. Ambassador Keen, explain yourself. Proxima Centauri was an uninhabited system destroyed in a natural stellar event. Marcus smiled, pulled up his sleeve, and tapped a sequence on his forearm implant. Instantly, the chamber's massive displays flickered to life, overriding council security protocols. The footage was ancient but crystal clear. A small human vessel, primitive by current standards, approached by a hegemony dreadnought near a red dwarf star. The dreadnought fired without warning. The human ship appeared to disintegrate. Then something impossible happened. The star itself shifted, not exploded, not novaed. It moved, as if grabbed by an invisible hand, and was thrust directly into the path of the Hegemony fleet. 27 capital ships and their escorts vanished in an instant. The chamber fell deathly quiet. That's celestial manipulation, whispered an avian counselor. That's beyond Class X technology. That's what happens when you attack humans, Alara said simply. We tried to establish peaceful first contact. Your predecessors responded with violence, so we demonstrated why that was unwise. Admiral Krelvan's exoskeleton clicked nervously. One incident from ancient history proves nothing. Your kind has shown no such capabilities since. Because of the truce, Marcus said, which you just ended. Voxmal floated down from his high seat, his translucent form now pale. If what you claim is true, why would humans agree to containment within Sol system for millennia? Ilara's expression softened slightly. We weren't contained. We were containing. There are things about humanity that the founders of your council discovered, aspects of our nature they found terrifying. We agreed to stay within our system not because we couldn't leave, but because they begged us to. What things? Demanded Krelvon. You'll find out soon enough, Alara replied. You broke the truce. The restrictions we placed upon ourselves are lifted. The chamber's main screen changed again, showing live footage from across the galaxy. On 100 different worlds, strange phenomena were occurring simultaneously. Massive structures hidden beneath oceans, buried in mountains, or cloaked in gas giants were suddenly becoming visible. Structures with the unmistakable mark of human design. What are those? Foxmel asked, voice barely audible. Observation posts, Marcus explained casually. We've been monitoring galactic development for millennia, guiding when necessary, intervening only in the most extreme cases. Impossible, Krelvon sputtered. We would have detected. You detected exactly what we allowed you to detect, Alara cut him off. Your most advanced sensors were designed based on principles we deliberately leaked into your scientific communities. A new figure entered the council chamber, a human woman who hadn't been there moments before. No doors had opened. She had simply appeared, walking calmly toward the central platform. Director Rivera, Alara greeted her with a respectful nod. The council was just learning about our observation network. The newcomer surveyed the chamber with ancient eyes that belied her youthful appearance. I see, and have you explained about the void cascade yet? The term sent visible shivers through the elder council members. The void is a myth, Admiral Krelvon declared, though his voice lacked conviction. Director Rivera smiled sadly. The dark energy anomalies your scientists have detected at the galactic rim, the quantum fluctuations in the barren regions between spiral arms, these aren't random events, Admiral. They're symptoms of a universe-scale phenomenon that will reach this galaxy within 200 years. She gestured, and the chamber's displays filled with data so complex that most species translation software simply rendered it as incomprehensible. The real reason we agreed to the truce, Rivera continued, was to give us time to prepare defenses, not just for humanity but for all sentient life. You expect us to believe that humans have been secretly protecting the galaxy? Foxmel asked incredulously. We expect nothing, Alara replied, but the truth remains. We've spent 3,500 years building technologies that might save not just Earth, but every world in this council. The screens changed again, showing the hegemony fleet still surrounded by the colossal energy beings. But now the image zoomed in on one particular ship, a research vessel at the fleet's edge. Inside, the alien crew watched in astonishment as their sensors detected something impossible, an approaching vessel. Not one of the energy beings, but a physical ship, sleek and silver, bearing Earth insignia. That, Rivera explained, is the Avalon, Earth's flagship, currently demonstrating our phase shift drive to your fleet. On screen, the Earth vessel seemed to flicker, becoming partially transparent before vanishing entirely. It reappeared seconds later directly alongside the alien research ship, close enough that their hulls nearly touched. Impossible, whispered Krelvon. No ship can transition to normal space with that level of precision. Conventional ships can't, Marcus corrected. Ships using conventional physics can't. Throughout the chamber, counselors were frantically consulting their own data sources, confirming what they were seeing. The evidence was becoming undeniable. Humanity possessed technology far beyond anything the Galactic Council had imagined. You've been hiding, Foxmal realized aloud. All this time. We revealed exactly as much as we needed to, Rivera agreed. Enough to gain admission to your galactic community. Enough to establish trade and cultural exchange, but not enough to frighten you. Until now, Alara added, her voice tinged with regret. We never wanted this revelation to come through conflict, but perhaps it's for the best. The void cascade approaches, and we need allies who understand what we truly are. The avian counselor who had spoken earlier fluttered down to the central platform, her plumage bristling with agitation. If humans possess such power, why haven't you simply conquered the galaxy already? Why the charade? Rivera laughed, a warm, genuine sound that seemed out of place in the tense chamber. Because that's not who we are. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our abilities. It was our empathy. Even at our most primitive, we understood connection, community, sacrifice for the greater good. The war you've declared, Ilara continued, addressing the entire council, cannot be fought with the weapons you possess. But we would rather not demonstrate why. She extended her hand palm up, offering something to Voxmal. A simple data crystal, glowing faintly blue. Instead, we offer a choice. Continue the conflict you've begun, though we assure you it will be brief and one-sided, or accept this data. It contains everything you need to know about the Void Cascade and our plans to counter it. Voxmal hesitated, his limbs trembling slightly. The choice is yours, High Arbiter, Ilara said gently. War against an enemy you cannot defeat, or alliance with a friend you never truly knew. The crystal hovered between them, its soft glow reflecting in the chamber's crystalline walls like 1,000 tiny stars. Grand Admiral Thex, commanding the Hegemony's first strike fleet, approached the Sol system with 10,000 warships, the most powerful armada ever assembled, cut through hyperspace, weapons primed, extinction-level planet crackers armed. On the flagship's bridge, tactical officers reported no unusual activity from Earth's defenses. Their scans showed only a handful of orbital platforms, some lunar installations, and a scattering of outposts on Mars and the outer moons. Primitive shielding, no superweapons. This will be over quickly, Thex announced to his command staff. The humans bluffed magnificently at the council meeting, but we'll show them what real power is. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Lyrax, appeared troubled. Admiral, I've been reviewing restricted historical archives. There are inconsistencies regarding humanity. Thex dismissed her concerns with a wave. Propaganda and myth. We'll be back for the victory parade by... The ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared. Report, Thex demanded. Unknown, sir. We're still in hyperspace, but something's wrong with the drive signatures. The massive view screen showed the impossible. The hyperspace tunnel was changing, warping, as if being manipulated by outside forces. All ships. Emergency return to normal space, Thex ordered. The armada dropped back into real space, but not at their intended coordinates. They found themselves scattered across an unfamiliar star system. A yellow sun, 9 planets. This is Sol, Lyrax whispered in disbelief. They pulled us here, across 200 light-years, instantly. Before Thex could respond, a transmission cut across all frequencies. A human face appeared on screen, an older man with dark skin and calm eyes. Greetings, Admiral Thex. I am Director Jabari Washington of Earth Defense. Your navigation systems have been adjusted to bring you directly to our doorstep. We thought it would save time. Thex maintained his composure. You've merely hastened your destruction. This fleet carries enough firepower to reduce your world to ash. Washington nodded thoughtfully. Yes, your weapons are quite impressive. But before you deploy them, perhaps you should check your long-range scanners. Thex signaled his tactical officer, who paled visibly at the readings. Sir, there are ships everywhere, thousands, millions of them, surrounding the entire fleet in a spherical formation. Impossible. Thex pushed the officer aside to see the data himself. The scans showed human vessels of all sizes, from tiny corvettes to behemoths that dwarfed even his flagship. They hadn't been there moments before. There had been no hyperspace signatures, no quantum bubbles, nothing to indicate their arrival. They had simply appeared. We've been hiding, Admiral, Washington explained gently. For 3,500 years, we've been hiding what we truly became after the Proxima incident. The Council's predecessors discovered something that terrified them. Humans don't just travel through space. Washington's image zoomed out to show him standing in what appeared to be a control room. Behind him was a massive window looking out on a breathtaking starscape. We merge with it. The camera panned to reveal that what Thex had assumed was a space station was actually a human, a colossal being of energy and matter, vaguely humanoid in shape, with stars visible through its translucent form. You're not facing Earth's military, Admiral. You're facing humanity itself. We evolved beyond biological limitations millennia ago. The humans you've met, our ambassadors, our representatives, they're just interfaces we create to communicate with younger species. Thex stared in horror as the truth dawned on him. The containment was to give the rest of the galaxy time to develop without our interference, Washington confirmed. We remember being young, being afraid. We wanted you all to have the chance to grow at your own pace. Throughout the system, on every ship in the Hegemony fleet, the same message played. And as the crews watched in awe and terror, the stars themselves seemed to shift around them, forming patterns, symbols, a language written in celestial bodies. The war you declared, Washington concluded, cannot be fought with the weapons you possess, but we would rather not demonstrate why. Thex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. What do you want from us? Nothing you don't freely give, Washington replied. Your council has already received our offer. Alliance, not subjugation. Protection, not control. Protection from what? Lyrax asked, finding her voice. From the Void Cascade, Washington said, his expression growing grave. The phenomenon your scientists have begun to detect but don't yet understand. The view screen changed, showing deep space at the galactic rim. Strange distortions warped the very fabric of space-time, black rifts that seemed to consume light itself. These ruptures are spreading, Washington explained. Within 2 centuries, they'll reach populated systems. When they do, conventional matter, stars, planets, people, will cease to exist in this dimension. Thex felt cold dread spreading through his body. And humans can stop this? Not stop it, no. The cascade is a natural cosmic process like the life cycle of a star. But we can provide safe passage to other dimensions, ones where the cascade cannot reach. The image on screen changed again, showing a massive construction in orbit around Jupiter, a ring of impossible proportions, built of materials that seem to shift in and out of reality. The gateway, Washington explained. When completed, it will allow passage to a dimension where the cascade cannot reach. A new home for all sentient life in this galaxy. Lyrax studied the images with the analytical mind that had made her one of the hegemony's top scientists before her military career. This technology, it's beyond anything I can comprehend, she admitted. Because it functions on principles your science hasn't discovered yet, Washington said without condescension. But we can teach you, Thex's tactical officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council. They've rescinded the war declaration. We're ordered to stand down and establish diplomatic relations with Earth. For a moment, Thex considered ignoring the order. His pride as Fleet Admiral demanded it. But as he looked at the readings again, the impossible number of human ships, the energy readings that defied comprehension, he realized the futility. Open a channel to all vessels, he commanded. This is Grand Admiral Thex. By order of the Galactic Council, all ships are to power down weapon systems immediately. We are no longer at war with humanity. The tension on the bridge lessened slightly, but confusion remained. What happens now? Thex asked Washington. Now? If we begin working together, the human replied. Your fleet will remain in Sol system as our guests. Your officers will receive the first briefings on the Void Cascade, and the role your people will play in the evacuation efforts. Evacuation? Lyrax repeated. Of the entire galaxy? Washington smiled. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But with 2 centuries of preparation, and the combined resources of all advanced civilizations plus technologies we've been developing since before your ancestors achieved spaceflight, it can be done. The massive energy being visible behind Washington shifted, and for a brief moment Thex glimpsed something beyond comprehension. A network of similar beings stretching across space, connected by threads of pure consciousness, working in perfect harmony. We've been preparing for this moment for 35 centuries, Washington continued. Everything, the containment, the limited technological sharing, even allowing you to believe you had the upper hand, was to protect you from truths you weren't ready to face. And now? Thex asked. Now you are ready, or you must be because time is running out. Throughout the Sol system, the human ships, millions of them, began to change. Some grew larger, others smaller. Some merged together into massive structures. Others split apart into swarms of tiny craft. All of them, Thex realized, were transforming to fulfill specific functions, becoming construction vessels, research platforms, training facilities. This is what humanity has been doing while contained in Sol system, Washington explained. Building, planning, preparing for what comes next. Thex straightened his posture, military pride reasserting itself. The hegemony fleet stands ready to assist. Tell us what you need. Washington's expression became genuinely warm. What we need, Admiral, is exactly what you're offering. The courage to face the unknown. The willingness to adapt. The strength to leave old conflicts behind. As Thex watched, a small human vessel, physically small, though its energy signature defied conventional measurement, detached from the massive gateway structure and headed toward his flagship. "That ship will dock with yours in moments," Washington said. "Ambassador Keene is aboard. She'll begin your briefing personally." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence broken only by the sound of equipment functioning and the subdued conversations of a crew trying to process what they just learned. "Orders, Admiral?" Lyrax prompted finally. Thex stared at the approaching vessel, then at the gateway beyond it, and finally at the shifted stars still visible through the viewports. Stars arranged to form words in the ancient hegemony language. The end approaches. The beginning awaits. The Galactic Council's emergency session was the first in history to include every member species simultaneously. Even ancient enemies set aside their differences in the face of the revelation about humanity. Ambassador Alara Keene stood in the center of the chamber, but she was different now. Her human form occasionally rippled, revealing glimpses of something vast and luminous beneath the facade. "For millennia, we maintained the illusion," she explained to the stunned assembly. "We created human bodies to walk among you, to trade, to learn your cultures, to share in the experience of biological existence that we once knew. We limited our presence to Sol System not because we were trapped there, but because we promised to give you space to develop on your own terms." High Arbiter Voxmal had been replaced by the Council's most senior member, Ancient One Zhou, a being so old that most species believed her to be merely symbolic rather than an actual person. "What happened to your kind?" Zhou asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The archives speak of humans as biological entities. When did you transcend?" Marcus stepped forward, his form also occasionally shifting between human and something else. "It began with the attack at Proxima Centauri," he explained. "When the hegemony fleet fired on our first extrasolar expedition, they hit our prototype dimensional drive. The accident should have killed everyone. Instead, it opened doorways we never imagined possible." Alara continued. "Within a generation, we had begun to transcend our physical limitations. Within 3, most of humanity had evolved into a state of matter-energy symbiosis. By the time your ancestors came seeking revenge for their lost fleet, they found beings they could barely comprehend. The chamber displays showed the progression, humans transforming from biological entities into creatures of pure energy, then into something beyond, beings that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, that could reshape space-time with a thought. Your ancestors feared us, Alara said gently. And rightly so. We were young in our power then, volatile, dangerous. We agreed to the truce because we recognized our own potential for destruction. We needed time to master ourselves, to establish ethical frameworks for our new existence. Admiral Krelvon, now representing the hegemony after Thex's reassignment to diplomatic duties, rose from his seat. Why reveal yourselves now? You could have continued the charade. Because the galaxy faces extinction, Marcus said bluntly. The statement hit the chamber like a physical blow. The void cascade, Ilara explained. Your scientists have detected its early signs but haven't recognized the pattern. Dark energy anomalies at the galactic rim. Quantum fluctuations in the barren regions between spiral arms. These are symptoms of a universe-scale event that will reach this galaxy within 200 years, displays. Showed mathematical models so complex that most species, translation software simply rendered them as incomprehensible. We've been preparing for this, Ilara continued. The reason we remained in Sol wasn't just the truce. We've been building defenses, studying the cascade, developing technologies that might save not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. And now you need our help? Ancient One Zhou asked. No, Ilara said with surprising gentleness. You need ours, but we won't force it upon you. Even now, we respect your autonomy. That's why we're here, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to offer an alliance. A true one this time, based on honesty and mutual need. The council chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the situation sank in. The choice is yours, Marcus said. Continue the war you've declared, though we assure you it will be brief and one-sided, or join us in facing the true enemy, the end of everything we know. For several minutes, no one spoke. Then from the highest tier of the chamber, a small representative of the Zerillian hive, a species known for their communal consciousness and mathematical genius, buzzed down to the central platform. "We have analyzed the data you provided," the Xerillian said, its compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights in rainbow patterns. "Our collective calculations confirm your projections of the void cascade. Your gateway theory is sound if beyond our current understanding." Ilara nodded respectfully. "The Xerillian mind has always impressed us. Your species' mathematical intuition exceeds even our own in some areas." "Then you will need our help," the Xerillian stated. "Your gateway requires calculations only our hive mind can perform efficiently." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "That's exactly right. The gateway isn't just a human project. It requires the unique abilities of many species working together." Murmurs spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about human ascendancy, it was about galactic cooperation on an unprecedented scale. Ancient One Zhou raised a gnarled appendage. "What of those who cannot or will not enter your gateway? What becomes of them when the cascade arrives?" Ilara's expression became grave. "We cannot force anyone through. Those who remain will cease to exist in this dimension. Their matter will be converted to energy forms incompatible with conscious life as we understand it." "Extinction," Krelvan said flatly. "Yes," Marcus confirmed, "but not for another 2 centuries. Time enough for even the most hesitant species to prepare, to understand, to make an informed choice." A representative of the Dracorian Empire, once among humanity's most vocal opponents, stepped forward. "And if we choose to find our own solution? To develop our own escape from this cascade?" "You are welcome to try," Ilara said without condescension. "We will share all our research, all our data. If you find another way, a better way, we would be the first to embrace it." This seemed to surprise many in the chamber. The expected human arrogance was absent. "You must understand," Marcus explained, seeing their confusion. "We don't seek to rule. Transcendence taught us the ultimate futility of domination. In the face of cosmic processes like the cascade, concepts like empire and control become meaningless," Ilara gestured. And the chamber's main display showed the gateway again. The massive ring in orbit around Jupiter, now clearly further along in construction than when Admiral Thex had first seen it. "This isn't just a door to safety," she said. "It's a door to something new. When we pass through, all of us together, we won't just be escaping destruction. We'll be participating in the next stage of cosmic evolution." Throughout the chamber, delegates exchanged glances, private communications, neural links. Species that had warred for millennia found themselves contemplating cooperation. Ancient rivals considered shared destiny. The Galactic Council was formed to prevent conflict, to establish unity among diverse species. Ancient One Zhou said finally, "If what you say is true, if extinction approaches, then this is the moment the Council was created for." She turned to address the entire assembly. "I propose we accept humanity's offer of alliance against the Void Cascade. Let us form a new body, a concordate for survival, to coordinate our efforts." Approval indicators lit up across the chamber, first dozens, then hundreds, finally thousands. Even the Dracorians, after brief internal debate, added their support. "It seems the vote is clear," Zhou announced. "The war is ended before it began. The alliance is accepted." Ilara and Marcus exchanged a look of profound relief. "There is one condition," Krelvan interjected. "Humanity must share its true nature with all species, not just those represented here. No more secrets. No more hidden capabilities. Complete transparency." "Agreed," Ilara said without hesitation. "The time for hiding is over." As if responding to her words, her human form began to shift more dramatically. The careful facade fell away, revealing her true nature. A being of pure energy contained within a roughly humanoid shape, stars visible within her translucent form. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber, but not of fear, of wonder. "This is what awaits all sentient life," she said, her voice somehow both singular and plural, emanating from everywhere at once. Not extinction, but transformation. Not an end, but a new beginning. Marcus too shed his human appearance, becoming a swirling nebula of consciousness vaguely contained in human shape. "The gateway will be completed within 50 years, he announced. "But the preparation, the social, cultural, and psychological adaptation will take longer. We must begin immediately." Ancient Wanzhou moved closer to the transformed humans, studying them with ancient eyes that had seen millennia pass. "I have witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations," she said, "but never have I imagined an ending like this. Not a defeat, but a transcendence. Not an ending at all," Ilara corrected gently, "a continuation. A new chapter in a story that began when the first primitive minds gained consciousness, and will continue long after this universe grows cold." Throughout the chamber, delegates began to understand. The war they had declared would never be fought. The enemy they had feared was now their greatest ally, and the future, uncertain, unknowable, but somehow less frightening now, awaited them all. 1 year after the revelation, the Galactic Concordat replaced the Ancient Council. Humanity and 1,000 other species now work together toward a common goal: survival. On Mars, now transformed into a massive shipyard, Admiral Krelvon watched in awe as humans in their energy form constructed vessels unlike anything his species had ever imagined. Ships that could traverse not just space but dimensions, crafts designed to navigate the quantum foam itself. "I still don't understand why you need physical ships at all," he admitted to Ilara, who had maintained her human appearance for the sake of her alien colleagues. "We don't," she said simply, "but you do. And we're building them for you, not us." Understanding dawned on Krelvon. "You're giving us the means to save ourselves." "We're giving you the choice," she corrected. "When the cascade comes, biological life as we know it will cease to exist in this dimension. But there are others." She gestured toward a massive structure taking shape in orbit above them, a ring of impossible proportions, built of materials that seemed to shift in and out of reality. "The gateway," she explained. "When completed, it will allow passage to a dimension where the cascade cannot reach. A new home for all sentient life in this galaxy." "And if we go through, will we become like you?" Krelvon asked, unable to hide his mixture of fear and wonder. Marcus approached, carrying what appeared to be an ancient paper book, an artifact so rare that Krelvon had only seen such things in museums. "That's the most beautiful part," Marcus said. "We don't know. When humanity transcended, it was accidental, violent, traumatic. We've spent millennia trying to understand what happened to us, trying to recreate the process safely." He opened the book, showing handwritten equations alongside intricate diagrams. "This gateway is different. It's controlled, designed specifically to preserve consciousness during dimensional transition. You might remain exactly as you are. You might evolve into something new. But unlike our transformation, yours will be by choice, not necessity." Across the solar system, similar conversations were happening as species that had once feared humanity now worked alongside them. The Dracorians, with their natural affinity for radiation environments, helped calibrate the quantum fields at Mercury's poles. The hive-mind Xyrillians, with their multidimensional mathematics, refined the gateway's energy requirements. On Earth itself, in what had once been the Swiss Alps but was now a vast complex of research facilities, Ancient Wanzhou met with the entity that had once called itself Jabari. Washington but now appeared as a swirling nebula of consciousness contained within a roughly humanoid shape. "Have studied your kind for centuries," Zoe admitted. "But I never imagined this. You could have conquered us at any time." The entity's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "That was never our path. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our evolution. It was our empathy. Even at our most primitive, we understood connection, community, sacrifice for the greater good." "Is that why you laughed when we declared war?" Joe asked. "Because you knew we posed no threat?" "No," the entity replied, its form shifting to show glimpses of stars being born and dying within its essence. "We laughed because after 3,500 years of protecting you from the truth, you finally gave us permission to reveal ourselves, to share the burden we've carried alone for so long." The entity gestured, and the facility's walls became transparent, revealing the night sky above. But it wasn't the sky as Zoe knew it. The stars had arranged themselves into patterns, not random constellations, but a vast, intricate message written across the cosmos itself. "The cascade is coming," the entity that had been Jabari said. "But so is something else, something beyond even our comprehension. We call it the Ascension." As Zoe watched in wonder, the message in the stars began to shift, telling a story of endings and beginnings, of death and rebirth on a universal scale. When we pass through the gateway, the entity continued, all of us together, we won't just be escaping destruction. We'll be participating in the next stage of cosmic evolution. Not just humanity, not just your species, but all conscious life, united in purpose and destiny. Throughout the galaxy on 1,000 worlds, beings of every description looked up at their skies and saw the same message written in stars that should have been too distant to see with the naked eye. The message was different for each species, written in their own languages, their own cultural contexts. But the meaning was the same. The end is coming, but so is the beginning. On the hegemony homeworld, once sworn enemies of Earth, massive crowds gathered in public squares to watch live transmissions from Sol System. The first prototype evacuation ships, joint creations of human insight and hegemony engineering, were undergoing their maiden voyages. On screen, Admiral Thex stood proudly on the command deck of the lead vessel, the first of his kind to command a ship capable of dimensional transit. Beside him stood a human interface, not Ilara or Marcus, but a new representative named Thomas Reyes. Today marks the beginning of Operation Continuance, Thex announced to the watching billions. 1 year ago, we declared war on humanity. Today, we declare alliance with them against the true enemy, the void cascade that threatens all existence. The camera panned to show the ship's unique design, organic curves merging with crystalline structures, technologies from 12 worlds working in harmonious conjunction. This vessel, Thex continued, represents more than an escape vehicle. It represents the future of all sentient life, cooperation instead of conflict, unity instead of division. As the hegemony crowds watched, the ship activated its dimensional drive, not with the violent, tearing effect of conventional hyperspace technology, but with a gentle ripple that spread outward like waves on water. For a brief moment, the vessel seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, after images trailing behind it like ghostly twins. Then it stabilized, hovering in normal space once more. Test successful, Thomas announced, his human form momentarily flickering to reveal his true nature. The dimensional barrier was penetrated and sealed without incident. The pathway principle is confirmed. A cheer rose from the crowds, not just on the hegemony world, but across thousands of planets where similar broadcasts were being received in the Council. Chambers, now the Concordate Assembly representatives, from all major species gathered to witness this historic moment. Where once suspicious glances and veiled threats had dominated, now collaboration and cautious hope prevailed. Ilara stood before them, once again in her energy form, no longer hiding her true nature. The prototype is just the beginning, she told the assembly. Within 50 years, the gateway itself will be complete. Within 100, we will have constructed enough evacuation ships to transport the populations of every world in the Concordate. Within 200, before the cascade reaches the core worlds, every sentient being who chooses to go will have safe passage to the new dimension. And those who choose to stay? Asked a representative from a reclusive species known for their religious devotion to their home planets. Their choice will be honored, Ilara replied without judgment. But we hope to convince all that the journey is worth making. As the assembly discussed the logistics of the greatest evacuation in galactic history, Marcus stood at a viewport, gazing out at the stars. Admiral Krelvon joined him. You seem troubled, Krelvon observed. Not troubled, Marcus corrected. Contemplative. We've spent so long hiding, so long carrying this burden alone. Now that it's shared, now that the work truly begins, I find myself wondering what comes next. After the evacuation, you mean? After the ascension, when all sentient life has passed through the gateway. What then? What new challenges await us in that new realm? What purpose will guide us when survival is no longer our primary directive? Krelvon considered this. Perhaps that's the beauty of it. For the first time in 3,500 years, your kind won't know what comes next. You'll discover it alongside the rest of us. Marcus's energy form pulsed with something akin to laughter. You're wiser than you know, Admiral. Perhaps that's why we laughed when you declared war. Because we recognized the irony. You thought you were ending a truce, but you were really beginning a journey. Across the galaxy, as the news of the successful test spread, a wave of understanding followed. The war that had been declared would never be fought. Instead, a journey would begin, one that would carry them all together into something new. Humanity had not just transcended their physical forms. They had transcended conflict itself. And now they offered the same gift to the galaxy, not subjugation, not domination, but ascension. As the gateway neared completion and the first signs of the void cascade appeared at the edges of their instruments, the beings once called humans prepared to lead the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guides into whatever waited beyond the end of everything they had ever known. And throughout the cosmos, on worlds whose names humans had never learned to pronounce, beings of all descriptions looked up at skies filled with strange new constellations, messages of hope written in stars that hummed with conscious purpose. And for the first time in eons, they felt not fear of the unknown but anticipation. The end is coming, but so is the beginning.